Shalom and good day all, this is Tehillim29 back again for another indie comic review, and in this indie comic review I'll be covering Ninja Funk, Bolos Playground one-shot, and also TMNT Usagi Yojimbo crossover. I'll now get things organised for the first one which will be covered. So for the first one I'll be covering will be the Ninja Funk one-shot, Bolos Playground. And moving into first things first, does this cover in any way, shape or form connect to something that is happening inside with the story? Sure enough it does, to which, as you can see there on the top of the cover, that is the character known as Bolo. And of course we end up meeting with McFly in the story. And you can certainly see it does actually connect to the Ninja Funk universe. So for the cover, I give it a 7 out of 10. Now it's time to move into the internal art, as well as what's happening story-wise around the beginning, middle, and the end. So as the story begins, we have the character of McFly, and we can sort of see that he's making his way to Bolo's store there, and is wanting to get some information from him, and in the progress, he will end up meeting up with some other characters that we met in the previous issues. So as we start to jump towards the middle of the story, we have the character of McFly mentioning that he's sort of like someone who can somewhat try to break some of the reality of this universe, and we see it in this format throughout the story. Whether he actually does, or in essence, he's somewhat daydreaming it. It makes you wonder. And as we approach the end, we catch up with the character of Wolfgang, who's with Bolo, and we end up getting a bit of a hint here of a new character that will be crossing over with the series. And this is the character from David Max Kabuki. So it's going to be very interesting as to when that comes about in the storytelling. So for the internal art, I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. And I enjoyed David Max art for the cover too. Moving into the area of the story, did we get any comic references to any of the previous issues? No, we didn't. Time, no reference. Location, about the only location was Bolo's store. But that's about all. It would have been nice to have like more locations mentioned in the story. The cast of characters consisting of Bolo, Wolfgang, McFly, and I think it's Bella at the end there. And of course, the introduction of the character who is Kabuki, or from the David Mack Kabuki series, so it's going to be interesting. For the overall story, I give it a 7 out of 10. Now it's time to move into the TMNT Usagi Yojimbo crossover. So, as we begin to move into the crossover, does this cover in any way, shape or form connect to something that's happening inside with the story? Sure enough it does, and I'll show you how. Again, we have the return of the wraparound cover, and for this cover I give it a 7.5 out of 10, as it definitely shows some of the things that do happen inside with the story. If anything, it looks like it probably could have taken directly from the story. It's now time to move to the internal art, which we'll have a look around the beginning, middle, and of course the end, as we'll get to see some of the things that take place in the story with the characters and who's there. So as this story begins, we see in the art that's been given to us that the Samuroids have now targeted their first victims for Dr. Werewen. As we turn up a little bit further in the story, we have Usagi Yojimbo end up meeting or going to the place to which they get to see some of the catastrophe of like some of the robots that Dr. Werewind has brought into this universe with the help of the Ninja Turtles. And as we move towards the end, we see that Dr. Werewind is starting to make a track all the way up to where the Emperor is, or to where Lord Noriyuki is. For the internal art, I gave it a 7 out of 10. Now it's time to move in relation to the story. Did we get anything in relation time-wise? No. The location, of course, it's still taking place in Japan. The cast of characters consisting of the Samuroids, Ichiko, who was actually one of the victims. We had Tomo, Lord Noriyuki. We also had Counselor Horikawa, the Mogura Ninja Clan, Lord Werewind, or Hijiki, or Ikiji as he's been called. We had Turno, we had the Ninja Turtles, we had Usagi Yojimbo, we had big robot ants and a robot dragon, and of course Jen. For the overall story rating in this, I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. Until then, let's keep it colourful and have yourself an awesome day.